Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another Sunday video, and today, my friends, the GTX 1080 Ti is 7 years old. It's actually its birthday. This absolute legend of a GPU was released in the 10th of March 2017. And to celebrate it, we're gonna be testing 20 popular titles in 2024. But first, let's go over a little bit of history. The GTX 1080 Ti is based on the awesome Pascal architecture, and it was an absolute beast when it came out, crushing the previous generation's 980 Ti by performing about 70% faster while consuming the same 250 watts of power. Not only that, this thing also came with 11 gigabytes of GDDR5X memory, and that's almost double of what the 980 Ti offered with 6 gigabytes. But the cherry on top, guys, is the MSRP of the 1080 Ti. All of those insane improvements came in with a $50 increase in the price tag, from $649 MSRP on the 980 Ti to $699 US MSRP on a 1080 Ti. If you bought one of these back in 2017 for MSRP, you got the best deal of your lives on a GPU, basically. But recently, we actually had a similar performance increase over the previous generation with the RTX 4090 compared to the RTX 3090. The 4090 is about like 60 to 70% faster, but at what cost? Nvidia, at what cost, right? The 4090 is now $2,000 or something crazy like that. Oh boy, how the turntables. Finally, we're pairing it with a Ryzen 9 7950X 3D with half of its cores disabled, so it's basically the same as a Ryzen 7 7800X 3D, 32 gigabytes of DDR5 6000 MHz RAM in dual channel, and a 2TB SSD for the games. Let's see what this legend can do in 2024, shall we? Let's start with Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p resolution using the high settings preset. What the heck? Anyways, this is high settings, and I'm gonna disable the resolution scaling here, as well as these settings, motion blurs and film grains. You know, nobody likes that. Why does high have a little what? That's just weird. Okay, this is native 1080p at high settings with the 1080 Ti, guys, and it's roughly around 60 FPS. That's actually pretty decent because we're not using any upscalers, you know, and this is actually the most intensive area in the entire game, or one of the most intensive areas. It's the DLC, the Phantom Liberty, inside of the Dogtown part of the map. It's handling it like a champ, my friends, at around 60 frames. We still have the medium settings preset, the low settings preset for those of you who want 60 plus FPS all of the time, and we also have FSR in this game, which will also bump our FPS by quite a bit. As you can see right here, since we are far away now from that roundabout, it's actually above 60 FPS consistently. Well, now it's starting to drop again, but it is pretty good performance, guys, right? Not gonna lie, 1080 Ti still has what it takes to play Cyberpunk 2077 with around 60 FPS on average. Let's stop it right there, and I am gonna go ahead and select the preset, which actually enables FSR2 on quality. So there's that, and I'm also gonna disable these three again, because I just don't like those settings. And look at that, guys. I mean, come on. This is pretty good performance. Of course, FSR2 on quality isn't really the sharpest thing in the world. It's pretty shimmery as well at faraway objects and so on. But it's definitely passable, especially on a 1080p monitor. And now, instead of dropping into like the mid 50s and low 50s and even high 40s in like super intensive scenarios, this is getting around 70 FPS consistently, guys. If you want 60 plus FPS, I think I would actually recommend these settings here. FSR, quality, those little stutters are because of autosaves, by the way, and high settings at 1080p. Good stuff, 1080 Ti, strong start. Next up is Counter-Strike 2 at 1080p resolution, 60 Hz, because 120 doesn't hurt, but it hurts the capture card. And we're using the high settings over here with no anti-aliasing. Alright, I'm playing a deathmatch over here, it just started. Oh my god. 300 plus basically is what we can expect. Hello there. There we go. If you didn't know, the 1080 Ti is a beast of a card for esports titles still, even 7 years later, of course, to be expected. These are not very intensive titles, but stuff like GTX 780s and so on might already start struggling in games like these. Come on, wait a second. There we go. Whereas 1080 Ti is still, yeah, it's only 7 years old. So for Counter-Strike standards, it's a new GPU. Oh wait. Oh, we ran out of bullets. What the heck? Oh boy. Okay, there we go. I got him. Oh, okay, another one down and another one. Damn, that was good. Damn it! Damn it! Oh, I need to go. I need to go. I don't have ammo. I have one bullet. Actually, one bullet is enough, right? I wasn't expecting that. Oh boy. Oh boy. Come on. There we go. There we go. Come over here. There it is. Another kill. Yes, sir. Well, we got 73 kills there. It was really, really hard. These two guys are beasts, basically. Let's try the smokes now. Okay, I'm gonna throw a smoke right here. It's a casual match. It's still the warm-up, but it doesn't matter because we're testing GPU here. And it does drop down into the 100s at 1080p high settings, as you can see, but not really too much, you know. It's still a high refresh rate experience, even with smokes on screen. And finally, most intensive thing that you can do is throw a grenade inside of a smoke, and when it explodes, it drops down to like the 130s. Well, when the smoke disappeared, it was more intensive. 110 FPS is the lowest. Now we have Call of Duty Warzone crossover with Modern Warfare 3 that I will call Warzone 3. I'm playing at 1080p resolution using the 100% resolution scale and balanced preset, okay, as well as Fidelity FX cast to sharpen up the image. This is not upscaling, okay? Everything else is set to balanced. Let's go. All right, so while dropping, looking at the map from above, look at that, 100 plus FPS. Oh my gosh. This is beautiful to witness, my friends. 7 years old. Now, where this game drops the most is near water, and as you can see, it is not really dropping by all that much, but once you start shooting at it, it usually drops quite a bit. But it's not dropping too much. It's only dropping into the 80s, basically. So it's safe to say that the 1080 Ti will deliver a quite enjoyable experience here at 1080p native resolution in this particular title. Wait, hello? 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 Come over here, boy. Do not run away from El Crispo. We're gonna get this kill, aren't we, guys? Hello. Up! I hate this game so much. Well, good news is now we get to take a look at a different area of the map, far away from the water actually, and it's getting around 100 FPS. I feel like this is a perfect experience here. It's not super high refresh rate. Damn it, I'm bad at this game! I'm sorry, guys. It isn't a super high refresh rate experience, but it's good enough, and it definitely feels smooth on a high refresh rate panel. Come on, please. Please! Oh my god! You know what? I'm done with this game, okay? Look at how people move here. What the hell is that? Let's move on to the next game. The performance is definitely very good, but the game itself, I can taste the sweat in my mouth right now. Okay, next up is The Last of Us Part 1. This is an extremely intensive game on PC, and we're playing at 1080p using no FSR here and the medium settings with ultra textures because we can. We got 11 gigabytes of VRAM in this card. And looking in this direction, we're getting a good 70 frames per second. The game looks great as well, but it does drop into the 50s, guys. Unfortunately, a bit underwhelming performance here coming from the 1080 Ti, my friends. And also, if you look at that power utilization, it's not consuming the TDP, the rated TDP of the card, you know, 250 watts. It's around 200 watts. Sometimes it goes below that. Sometimes it goes above it a little bit. So yeah, maybe, again, it's just down to some optimization issues here. Let's go. Second part of the benchmark run is here. Start counting the FPS again, guys. It seems like it's micro-stuttering quite a bit right now. Look at that frame time graph. Power utilization is going down to like 150 watts at times. No, they probably broke something here. Oh, come on, mate. All right, around here, 48 FPS. Goodbye, sir. Goodbye, sir. I didn't want to kill you, but you gave me no choice. Let's reload. Okay, here we are outside, getting 50s still with a ton of micro stuttering. Looking in this direction, 40s. Yeah, and that's the minimum that it will drop to. But again, I really thought this was gonna do better, and I believe it did back like 5 or 6 months ago. What the hell? Let's try some FSR2 over here at the end of it. And this is set to quality, so it renders the game at 720p and then upscales to 1080p. And it's still not enough to achieve 60 FPS. Oh, 1080 Ti. You were the chosen one. Okay, to contrast that previous experience, which I did not like, let's play an optimized title. This is Forza Horizon 5 at 1080p, 4x MSAA, using the Ultra settings. Not extreme, Ultra settings. And let's start counting our FPS. It's getting 100-ish frames per second. Now this is good, right? It looks great. It performs amazing. There's no need for extreme settings because it looks basically the same as Ultra. You know, it's very hard to tell the difference. And you lose a lot of FPS, so that's why I chose Ultra settings right here. And you could even play this at 1440p if you wanted to. Oh boy, okay, bit of a forest area right here, guys, so we can see more vegetation dropping down into the 90s. And finally... Finally, the city area of the map, guys, where the FPS usually drop the most. Actually, by the end of this benchmark is where it's going to drop the most, but here it's pretty intensive as well. It's dropping down into like the 80s, low 80s, 1% lows are in the high 70s. This is a very smooth experience still, obviously, nothing to complain about. And if you're wondering, at 1440p, it dropped into the low 60s here. Over on the tunnel area, it gets more intensive for some reason. It's very weird. And getting out of the tunnel right here is where it drops the most, and it dipped to 63 frames per second at 1080p Ultra with 4x MSAA. So it's safe to say it's a great experience on the 1080 Ti, to be expected. Now I'm playing Hogwarts Legacy at 1080p with TAA high and the high settings preset. And guys, this should be pretty good because I remember playing it with the 1080 Ti and it was a pretty nice experience. Obviously, if you want to get these high FPS in areas like Hogsmeade over here, this is a super CPU intensive area, you will need something like a 5000 series AMD Ryzen CPU, or maybe an Intel CPU from the 12th gen and upwards. If you're stuck with something like an i7-8700 from the same time that the 1080 Ti came out, you will likely see a bit of a CPU bottleneck back there in Hogsmeade. Anyways, you can expect 60 to 70 FPS most of the time, and with some drops into the 50s in super demanding areas like this one. Actually, I haven't seen a more demanding area like this one right here at the end of this river. If I look to the right over here, 55, 57, that's pretty much worst case scenario, guys. And yeah, high settings works great. If you need 60 plus FPS all of the time, you can always enable FSR2 or drop it down a notch to medium settings instead. But I think for this game, this is completely fine and playable. Now it's the good old GTA 5, which is still very popular, and we're playing it at 4K resolution with very high settings here. Advanced graphics are all turned off. These are very intensive. And since this is an older DirectX 11 title, that means that the 1080 Ti has been optimized perfectly to run it at the time. And look at this, guys. 99% GPU utilization, full power usage there. We're reaching above the TDP of 100 or 250 watts, actually. And it runs amazingly, guys. Now, driving through the city and through some people here. Goodbye, people. I'm sorry, it's just on the way, you know, I need to go see Jack. Isn't really that intensive, really, on the GPU, it's more CPU intensive, but when you see grass, and we will see a lot of grass in just a little bit, that's where it becomes hard to run, so I'm not sure if this will actually drop from like 60 FPS. Also, this was like probably the biggest open world title back when the GTX 1080 Ti released, and it's hardly even using half of its memory. It's 6.5 gigabytes of VRAM, and we got 11 on this card, as I told you many times already. Also, around here, we're not really dropping that much. Hello, Jack, how's it going? Everything all right? Do you like the 1080? Ti? I think he does. He just went to sleep a little bit there, you know, because he's comfortable with this GPU. Goodbye, Bob. Go to hell. So yeah, with above 60 FPS all of the time at 4K with this visual fidelity, it's basically perfect for this game. Good stuff. And now we have another timeless masterpiece from Rockstar. This is Red Dead Redemption 2 at 1080p using the hardware unboxed optimized settings for best performance and visuals ratio. And the 1080 Ti here is getting really good performance. At first I manually set it to the highest preset of the game, you know, ultra preset, which has some things on high and medium as well. And I was seeing 50-ish FPS, but here with the optimized settings it looks like 90% as good, and it performs way better above 60 frames per second. It's getting 95 or 96% GPU utilization, but I've been seeing the same behavior with pretty much all of the GPUs that I've tried in this particular title from Nvidia. Alright, there's Bob over here. Let's bring him with us this time. Come over here, Bob. We got this, right? Hell yes. Let's see Strawberry. Anyway, here we are, Strawberry Town, dropping our FPS into the 70s. This is one of the most intensive areas in the entire game. Maybe there are a couple of other areas where it's gonna drop slightly from these values. But in Saint Denis, for example, which is the biggest city in the game, you can expect like 10 more FPS than around here. And I mean, you can probably even play at 1440p. Let's try that out. I just applied this resolution, and yep, 60-ish FPS is what we're gonna get on average. I would say. We're around here, nothing really is happening, you know. I guess the river is intensive, the forest areas with a lot of vegetation is also intensive, but here in Strawberry it should start dropping a little bit from 60 FPS. Alright, it dipped to 59, but who cares really? Like, it only dips slightly every once in a while. This is absolutely amazing, even at 1440p. Helldivers. What the hell is happening? Whoa, okay. That was weird. And now let's clip into him. Yes, everybody clipping into each other. Perfect, good stuff. So now we're playing Helldivers 2. And we're doing it at 1080p resolution, native, and the high settings preset. I recently tested the 1080 Ti here. Where are we going? Oh, okay, the host has left the game. But yeah, I recently tested this GPU in this game. It dipped down from 60 FPS sometimes, but let's test another area, you know, another world. Alrighty, here we have it, guys. 70s. Oh boy! Oh, so many. Okay. We're starting off crazy already. Oh boy. Alright, start counting our FPS. Here we go. Ooh, please don't kill me. Also, look at the averages that we're getting right now. 69. Absolutely amazing experience. Couldn't be better, my friends. Did I kill the thing by landing on top of it? Nope, I did not. These are very hard to kill, apparently. Oh, we got this. We gotta protect the weed. Yes. Come on. Oh my gosh, this game is actually a lot of fun, guys, and the 1080 Ti can handle it like a champ. It's not as good as, say, like even an ARC A770 in this particular title. I guess it's one of those cases where a game is pretty recent. It's not really optimized for these old architecture of GPUs, but it runs fine on such a beastly monster like this one. Oh boy, let's go. Extraction is here. Extraction is here. We're gonna make it. Yes. Nice. Now I'm playing Dying Light 2 Reloaded at 1080p resolution using the high settings and no upscaling. DirectX 11 as well, which seems to be very stable here on the 1080 Ti. And as you can see, we're getting comfortably 60 plus FPS, at least in this area right here. I'm gonna try to go up to, oh my god, to a big building or something. Oh boy, what is happening? Alright, it's all good. Yeah, I kind of want to take a look at the map from above, you know. I'll say it's definitely a very playable experience here in Dying Light. It is a single-player first-person shooter, so you might want 60 plus FPS the entire time. I would, but honestly, it's not really that bad, especially because Nvidia Reflex is also enabled, you know, so that works quite well to eliminate the little lags that you would see when dropping into the 50s. Oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, look at this right here. It's not dropping FPS by looking at the entire map from above in either direction. It's actually less intensive up here than it is down there. So let's go down there again. All good. Somehow we didn't die. Let's go. How do I kill this one? He's armored up. Oh boy. What the? Just kick him. Yeah, there we go. Goodbye. No stuttering here fighting the zombies either. Zombies, I'm sorry. It's working really well. Usually in these park areas with this vegetation right here, it's very small vegetation, you know, but it is a little bit more intensive than usual, but yep, it seems to be getting very stable FPS. Now we're playing Apex Legends at 1080p using the highest settings aside from this one right here. Oh, looking at the map from above, we get 100-ish FPS. My boys don't want to drop there, so I will do it alone. I don't care. Now, the bad thing about Apex Legends is you can get really high FPS and all of a sudden there's like a smoke or an ultimate going on and they will drop like crazy. And it will be noticeable if you're running a high refresh rate monitor. See, you guys didn't spawn with me. Now you are dead. Yes, that's what you get. Also, Nvidia building, kind of, right? Am I hearing steps? Oh boy. Maybe I am. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I am hearing steps. Just gonna go this way. Don't mind me! Don't mind me! Throwing smokes and so on and getting shot at. As you can see, it drops a little bit. And 120s right now. Let's go this way. No, 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 no. Oh, come on. Seriously, just leave me alone. I'm just benchmarking here. We are completely screwed. Yes, I knew it. Okay, so I'll need to see the ultimate inside of the training area. All right, here we have it, guys. I'm gonna start counting our FPS. This is the firing range. Yep, there we go. It showed up on screen. And I'm gonna throw my ultimate right here. A couple of smokes at the same time. And we're gonna see what kind of FPS we can get right here. Look at that. Dropping down into the lower 90s or 100s most of the time. It's not a bad experience. And as I said, if you have a high refresh rate monitor, you will feel the difference between like 150s and 180s that we're getting right now, even 200s at times. And then the slowdown to like 90 FPS, but it's only in extreme scenarios, so it doesn't really matter. It's still a high-end experience, a competitive one, and on top of that, you can play on low settings if you really require always like 144 plus all of the time. Guys, time is slowing down. It's time for Slowfield. Sorry. Let's go. I'm playing this excuse of a game at 1080p resolution using medium settings, and resolution scaling or upscaling is off, so resolution is 100%. It's native 1080p. And look at this. 1080 Ti is playing a game that looks kind of like Fallout 4 or something like that. It just looks outdated, you know. Even on ultra settings, it looks outdated. And it's barely above 35 FPS all of the time, you know. It is gonna drop into the low 30s at times, and that's just incredible to me. How the heck, Bethesda, how did you manage to make such a broken game? In terms of optimization, you know. It is pretty terrible, isn't it? Motion blur also doesn't help it. I'm sorry about that, by the way. I forgot to turn it off. Anyways, I'm gonna turn off motion blur now and enable FSR 3, which is present in this game, thankfully, and frame generation at the same time. And also the resolution scale is still at 100%, so we're just using frame generation on top of the native resolution. And this way, can FG save the 1080 Ti? Well, kind of. Of course, the input lag is atrocious at the moment. It's like, you can't really see it properly, but I can definitely feel a heck of a lot of input lag right now. But hey, the image is smooth. And here it still drops down into the 50s. Oh boy. You know what, guys? This is weird, but I think I would stick to the native resolution without frame generation because this is a first-person game, you know, the input lag actually matters quite a bit. What a shame this game is, my friends. Let's move on. Let's see how Spider-Man Remastered does at 1080p using TAA and the very high settings, custom very high settings, not the preset. Okay, so it's basically maxed out. And oh boy, this is good. This is good. It looks way better than Slowfield did, right? And it's getting 60 plus FPS all of the time, basically. Oh my goodness, it's great, guys. Also, GPU utilization seems to be fluctuating a little bit right there, down into like the low 90s. That's probably because of Nvidia Reflex being enabled. It's not a CPU bottleneck, it can't be with a 7950X 3D. So there's that, and I'm gonna go to one of the most intensive areas for the GPU to render in this game, which is the Central Park area. Here we go. Oh boy, okay, it dropped slightly into like the low 60s. I saw like 64 minimum so far, but it's staying above 60 FPS the entire time. So you can indeed max out this game and get a really smooth experience all the way through. I think there's still one single area where it's gonna drop from 60 FPS, but it's not a problem. Most of the time it's gonna be buttery smooth. All right, moment of truth, guys. This is it. This is the most intensive little spot in the entire city, and it seems like even here it is not dropping. Oh, up there we go. Okay, never mind. While you are dropping from the sky, the FPS will also drop, but you could say that, well, the FPS are also trying to drop with you. So, yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. And we're back to hard-to-run titles. This is Alan Wake 2 at 1080p with FSR2 on quality, or 720 internal resolution. And these are the PS5 settings for quality, not the performance. So these settings look very good. They're very similar to the medium preset in this game. Obviously, the 1080 Ti doesn't support mesh shaders, so this game actually had a patch recently that allowed it to run way better, because previously, before the patch, I was getting 30 FPS and drops into the 20s at 160p lowest settings. So it's a huge improvement here with the newer patch. I made an entire video about it, obviously. Many of you probably watched it. And now it's playable. And I would actually choose these settings to play with the 1080 Ti here in Alan Wake 2. It can be pretty enjoyable. It is smooth overall. If you look at the frame time graph, sometimes there's the odd spike here and there while loading things, but nothing out of the ordinary. And it's basically getting what, like 35 plus FPS all of the time, mostly 40 plus, which is pretty reasonable for a game like this. If you fancy installing some mods and stuff like that, you can install like the FSR3 mod and get even higher FPS for a smoother experience, and the baseline isn't as bad as Starfield's baseline, so the input lag will still be pretty atrocious, but not terrible. It might actually be playable, especially since this is a slower paced title anyways in single player. Next up we got The Finals. This is an Unreal Engine 5 game, but it's very well optimized. It's probably the smoothest UE5 title. We're playing at 1080p, TAAU set 100%. We can't really disable it, unfortunately, and the high settings preset. Alright, here we go, start counting our FPS, and it seems like it's going to be quite a smooth experience. It's lovely to see, actually. This game is so well optimized. The developers know what they were doing. It's probably super hard to make UE5 not stutter, and look at that frame time graph. Not a single stutter to be seen. This is lovely. Alright, explosions and so on. Oi, hello! Oh boy, alright, that was intensive, and it didn't really drop by too much, so that's great. Oh, this guy, I thought this was my guy. Out here, it's also dropping a little bit into the 90s, as you can see. A little bit more intensive area, I guess. And still not a problem. As long as it doesn't really dip from 60 FPS, it's gonna be fine, guys. It really feels smooth, and it's super playable. And now it's the game of the year 2023, Baldur's Gate 3. We're playing it at 1080p resolution using the high settings preset, as you can see, with TAA, no upscalers here, and it is running like a champ, my friends. 80 FPS right here is extremely good. What the hell did I do? Okay, there we go. 70 40s as well. It shouldn't really dip down into the 50s, you know, since we're getting around 75 to 80 FPS around the city area of the game, which is very intensive, you know. It's Zac 3 right here, and yeah, it's stable. It doesn't really stutter too much outside of the normal in this game. I really want to check out an area with some spells that drop our FPS by a little bit, but I'm not really seeing it here. Also, this game is able to fully utilize the 1080 Ti. You can see the GPU power usage going up to the maximum as well and surpassing it slightly at times. 11 gigs of VRAM are completely enough as well for these settings at 1080p, and this is it over here. Okay, so sometimes it actually drops a little bit. I should start throwing some of those magical things in just a little bit, guys. There we go. One over there. Yeah, not a problem. Another one over there, and the last one should be here. Yep. Okay. So it doesn't even dip whenever that happens. And now we'll have either Stutter Night or Fortnite. It depends on how it goes, of course. I hope this season is a little bit better optimized. So I'm playing this at 1080p resolution using DirectX 12. I have installed the streamed assets from the launcher as well. And I'm using the high settings preset without nanite and global illumination on ambient occlusion, as well as reflections on screen space, because otherwise it would use real-time ray tracing, which, well, this card can't really handle. And looking at the map while dropping, we're getting around like 90 frames per second with a little bit inconsistent frame time graph, but that's normal while dropping in this game. It's doing a decent job. At first I was going to try this at epic settings without nanite, but then I saw around like 80 FPS average with a couple of drops sometimes from 60 FPS, so I figured high settings looks pretty much the same as epic without nanite, and well, it performs a heck of a lot better as well. With 100 plus FPS average at the moment, this will be a high refresh rate experience. Okay, so I just got this weapon. It's Zeus's strike or something, or lightning strike, and I don't know what it does. So now I guess we will know. Oh my god! Holy crap! Okay, that worked. That was close. Okay, there's another one. There's another one. Let's go. All right, should be able to do this. Nice, good job. Another one down. I mean, I have no complaints right here. It's not a super high refresh rate experience, but it could definitely be if you play on like competitive settings, for example. But it's buttery smooth. 120 FPS average is high refresh rate anyways, and I would totally recommend this experience, guys. Oh boy. There we go. Oh my gosh, this feels fantastic. And it's that time of the video again, conclusion time, but don't go anywhere because I'll still have 3 different games running right here. Now let's talk a little bit about the experience with this GPU in 2024. First of all, there's no denying it's getting pretty old at this point, right? It still supports the latest drivers and so on, but the game optimizations these days don't really have the Pascal series in mind anymore, unfortunately. And we see quite a drop-off in performance even compared with something like an RTX 4060. This also doesn't support DLSS, unfortunately, even though it's an Nvidia GPU. Only the RTX series do support DLSS, so yeah, you're stuck with FSR. In some games it works very well, like in Alan Wake 2, for example, but in most games it's a bit hit or miss, basically. But the good news is, if you're playing at 1080p resolution, the GTX 1080 Ti still packs a bit of a punch. As you saw in many of the games, they were very playable, even demanding titles sometimes. Obviously, like the most intensive ones, The Last of Us, the Alan Wakes, those are super demanding, and they require newer technologies to run properly. So yeah, an old card like this one will struggle quite a bit, unfortunately. But most of the other popular games ran absolutely fine. Does that mean that you should go out and buy a GTX 1080 Ti 7 years later? I don't think so. And that's because, as this is an old GPU, it's likely to not receive driver support for much longer. And also because, as much as this was an amazing and efficient card and super high performance GPU at release, well, in 2024, it's quite inefficient in terms of power utilization, you know? Now, since this actually performed quite decently still, even at 1080p high settings, there's still a bit of life in it for sure. And that means that it has its place in the market, despite the high power utilization and old architecture. it's strong, right? Strong-ish at least. So I'll say that if you find one of these in the used market for around like $140, maybe maximum $150, that might be stretching it a little bit. It depends on how much the RX 6600 XT performs, costs actually. Because in reality, this performs very similarly to that GPU these days, and well, the 6600 XT consumes like half of the power of this one, and it's newer and it has newer driver support and game support and so on. So I guess for like $150, 6600 XT is probably a better buy. But, you know, this has its status, its legendary status. So if you've wanted the 1080 Ti forever, I think like $140 or $150, not a bad price to pay for one of these, right? That's been it for this one, guys. Thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And once again, happy birthday to this beautiful GPU. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.